The BBC, never afraid to try something new.
There's powerful police drama with detective in a wheelbarrow.
I'm in a wheelbarrow. This time it's personal.
We go uphill and down dale with the adventures of three blokes in a bar. And there's live and uninterrupted coverage of international anvil throwing. And the long-awaited title clash live from Cleethorpes World Championship pan fighting.
The BBC believes that great comedy comes from taking risks, so it allows writers and performers the freedom to take them. The BBC can only do this thanks to the unique way it is paid for, by you.
And no season would be complete without a classic period drama.
Come here, you've got my tankard!
In 1992, Rudolf Nureyev knew he was dying.
Home, it is where somebody is waiting for you. Home was this theater.
His final dream was to stage the ballet La Bayadère.
You have someone who's dying, and instead of his death, gives this wonderful ballet.
A last wish fulfilled.
He was consecrated by the love of people.
Rudolf Nureyev on Omnibus. Tuesday, 10:45, BBC One.
A jambalaya of a movie over on BBC Two in 10 minutes. The Heat of New Orleans gets to Dennis Quaid and Ellen Barkin in The Big Easy. Here on BBC One, the epic series that charts our progress through this century focuses on Communist China 1949, the People's Revolution. Sunday's news, first on BBC One, with Michael Burke.
Israel and the Palestinians are said to be close to agreement tonight on Hebron. King Hussein is brokering a deal. Israel's Prime Minister says they've made considerable progress. Tony Blair says education is Labour's priority. They'd bring in better teachers and more homework. And up, and oh dear, another balloon attempt ends in a day trip to near disaster. Good evening. The deadlock between Israel and the Palestinians on the future of the West Bank city of Hebron may have been broken tonight. King Hussein of Jordan saw the Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat earlier today and met Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu this evening. Within the last hour, the meeting finished. The two sides said they hadn't reached full agreement, but had made significant progress. From Israel, our Middle East correspondent Stephen Sackur reports.
King Hussein flew into Gaza at the controls of his own helicopter at the beginning of a day of dramatic diplomacy. It was the king's first ever visit to Gaza, a sign of his determination to intervene to save a peace process deep in crisis. After years of uneasy relations with Yasser Arafat, there were signs of solidarity. After their meeting, the king and Yasser Arafat emerged in positive mood.
I think that everything is moving very, very well, and I really hope that all these efforts will lead to a happy conclusion, the beginning of a new phase.
And with that, the king announced his immediate departure for an urgent meeting in Tel Aviv with Prime Minister Netanyahu. There were contacts with the Egyptian president and the American Secretary of State. By the time King Hussein faced Mr. Netanyahu a short time ago, there was optimistic talk of a breakthrough within reach. The Americans are heavily involved. The pressure for a deal is intense, but it hasn't yet been done.
Because of the initiative, the important initiative that His Majesty took, we have made considerable progress, and I think we can envision the end of the negotiation in sight. There is still work to be done.
Israeli-Palestinian talks are likely to continue through much of the night. The U.S. Special Envoy Dennis Ross, who had threatened to go home, is now chairing the talks. Success is by no means guaranteed, but it is perhaps closer than ever before. Stephen Sackur, BBC News, Jerusalem.
Here, Tony Blair has said that education would be the priority of a new Labour government. He said he wanted to drive through education reforms with the same zeal the Conservatives applied to the trade unions. The Conservative Party chairman, Brian Mahwini, said schools run by Labour councils had the worst standards, and Mr Blair was a hypocrite. Chief political correspondent John Sargent reports.
Tony Blair is concerned that voters are being put off by party political wrangling, and so this morning he concentrated on policy, particularly on education. It would be Labour's flagship legislation in their first parliamentary session.
If you compare us with France and Germany, far behind. Now, we are catching up, but they're racing ahead even more. So if we want to get this right, it's got to be driven through from the top. No holds barred. Now, this is my passion.
Labour promises nursery schooling for all 4-year-olds, but not through the voucher scheme which starts in April. That would be scrapped. Other measures in the bill: there would be minimum homework times, 30 minutes a night for primary pupils, 90 minutes for those at secondary school, long-term reading and writing targets for 11-year-olds, and 5-year-olds to be assessed to allow improvement to be measured.
There's one very glaring omission, and that is any reference to the need to recruit and retain and motivate teachers. We are facing a crisis in that respect at the present time.
Labour want to reduce class sizes using money from the scheme which enables some less well-off children go to private schools. But the Tories say the sums don't add up, and Labour's whole approach lacks credibility.
There is no alternative to the way that we have pursued over the last decade to increase choice, to increase diversity, to increase, therefore, the internal pressure on schools to improve, to make them a